Dr. Ji-won Kim sat at his desk late one night, rubbing his tired eyes. The soft blue glow of computer screens lit up his face as he sipped cold coffee. As head of NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Division, these late shifts were normal. Most nights were quiet, just the usual patterns of distant stars and space debris. Tonight was different. "That's not right," he muttered, leaning closer to his screen. A cluster of objects had appeared at the edge of their detection range. They weren't moving like asteroids or comets. They were slowing down, deliberately. Ji-won's hands trembled slightly as he ran the calculations again. The objects had entered the solar system from the direction of Alpha Centauri, and they were big, each one several kilometers in length. His heart raced as he picked up the phone. "Director Sun-mi, you need to come see this right away." Within 3 hours, Ji-won's discovery triggered alerts across the globe. The Keck Observatory in Hawaii confirmed the sighting. Then the European Space Agency. Then China's Tianyan telescope. Soon, every major space agency and observatory on Earth was tracking the incoming fleet. At the Johnson Space Center, scientists and military personnel crowded around the main display. The objects had changed course and were now heading toward Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system. "They're using controlled burning to slow down," said Young-ho Lee, an astronomer from South Korea's space agency. "Whatever these things are, they're not natural." For 3 days, the world watched as the alien ships, because that's what they clearly were, positioned themselves around Jupiter. High-powered telescopes captured images of massive mechanical arms extending from the vessels, dropping into Jupiter's swirling atmosphere. "They're harvesting something," Ji-won explained to the emergency UN committee that had formed. "Hydrogen, helium, maybe something we don't even understand. But they're taking resources at a speed that shouldn't be possible. The nations of Earth tried everything to establish contact. Radio signals across all frequencies, mathematical sequences, even simple picture messages. The aliens gave no response. They continued their work, ignoring Earth completely. As days turned into a week, fear spread across the planet. In New York, the United Nations building was surrounded by crowds demanding information. World leaders tried to keep people calm, but social media filled with panic and wild theories. "We need to prepare for the worst," Colonel Do-Yun Park told the Emergency Security Council. He wasn't a man who scared easily. As a military strategist who had studied wars throughout human history, he recognized the patterns unfolding before them. The colonel stood at the front of the UN chamber, his uniform crisp despite having not slept for 2 days. Behind him, screens showed the alien fleet now moving from Jupiter toward the inner planets. "They haven't responded to any attempts at communication," he said, his voice firm and clear. "They've established a base of operations at Jupiter, gathered resources, and are now moving inward toward Earth. This is not how peaceful explorers behave." A murmur went through the assembly. "Then what is it?" asked the representative from Brazil. Colonel Park's face remained serious as he pointed to the tactical display. "These movements match those of an invasion force. They're securing resources, establishing a supply line, and advancing methodically. In military terms, these are the actions that precede an attack." The room fell silent. "But why?" asked Ji-won, who had been invited to present the scientific data. "We've done nothing to provoke them." "Sometimes," Park replied, "all it takes is existing on land someone else wants." Outside the UN building, ordinary people went about their lives, most unaware of how serious things had become. Children played in parks, workers complained about their jobs, couples fell in love. All while the greatest threat humanity had ever faced moved steadily closer. In the following days, the governments of Earth began quiet preparations. Military satellites were repositioned. Secret weapons programs were activated. Scientists worked around the clock trying to understand the alien technology from the limited observations they could make. When the alien fleet crossed Mars's orbit, they finally acknowledged Earth's existence. A simple message, broadcast on all frequencies, translated by computers into every human language. "Your resources are claimed. Resistance is futile. Evacuation is not an option." The message was played once, then repeated every 6 hours. In the UN Security Council's secure bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, Colonel Park stood before the assembled world leaders. The room was tense, filled with the most powerful people on Earth now facing a threat none of them had been elected to handle. "We've analyzed their approach," he said. "At current speed, they will reach Earth in 5 days. We must decide our response now." Some argued for immediate surrender, others for using nuclear weapons. Still others believed this might all be a misunderstanding. "They've shown us who they are," Colonel Park said firmly. "They arrived unannounced. They've taken our resources without permission. They've threatened our existence. These aren't explorers or friends. This is an invasion force, and we must respond accordingly." The debate lasted hours, but in the end, Earth's nations united as never before. For the first time in human history, old enemies put aside their differences to face a greater threat. And so, as the alien fleet approached, humanity prepared to deliver its one and only warning. The alien mothership entered Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. People worldwide stopped what they were doing, looking up at the sky where the massive vessel was visible even in daylight, a dark shape blotting out the stars, larger than anything humans had ever built. Across television screens, computer monitors, and even digital billboards in major cities, the aliens broadcast their message. The strange symbols flashed for just a moment before transforming into text in every human language. "Your planet has been selected for resource harvesting. Organic life forms must surrender or face eradication. You have 24 hours to dismantle your defensive systems and prepare for occupation." In homes around the world, families huddled together. Some prayed, some packed bags they knew they couldn't take anywhere. Others simply held each other, watching the skies. At the United Nations Emergency Command Center, President Yoon-ha Lee of South Korea stood surrounded by advisors. As this quarter's rotating head of the Security Council, she had been chosen to speak for humanity. The weight of this responsibility showed in the dark circles under her eyes. "What are our options?" she asked the room of military commanders, scientists and world leaders. General Tae-woo Kim of the Asian Alliance Defense Force stepped forward. "Madam President, conventional weapons will be useless against their technology. We've analyzed the energy readings from their ships. They're using gravity manipulation we've only theorized about." "Nuclear options?" asked the American representative, his voice grim. Dr. Ji-won Kim, who had first spotted the aliens, shook his head. "Based on their shields, even our most powerful weapons would barely scratch them, and they would retaliate. Billions would die." The room fell silent until Colonel Do-hyun Park cleared his throat. "There is one option, Protocol Thermopylae." Several military officers shifted uncomfortably. Protocol Thermopylae wasn't supposed to exist. It was a theoretical defense strategy so classified that most leaders in the room had only heard rumors. "Explain," President Lee demanded. Colonel Park nodded to his aide, who distributed sealed folders to each person. "For the past 30 years, the major powers have been secretly developing defense systems beyond what the public knows. Orbital, platforms disguised as communications satellites, energy weapons hidden in mountain ranges, autonomous combat systems buried under the ocean floor. That violates at least 16 international treaties," the European representative said, leafing through the documents. "Yes," Park admitted, "but those treaties won't matter if we're all dead tomorrow." President Lee studied the schematics. "Will it work?" Colonel Park's face remained neutral. "Unknown. The system has never been activated. The simulations give us a 30% chance of success." "Those aren't good odds," someone muttered. "They're better than 0, President Lee said, closing her folder. "How long to implement?" 12 hours to bring all systems online," Park replied. "But we need unanimous agreement from all nuclear powers." President Lee looked around the room at the representatives of China, Russia, the United States, Britain, France, India, Pakistan, and others. One by one they nodded. "Do it," she ordered, "and prepare the broadcast station. I need to address the world." While technicians throughout the globe worked frantically to activate dormant defense systems, President Lee prepared her speech. She refused speechwriters, instead writing her words by hand on a simple notepad. "These might be the last words humanity speaks as a unified voice," she told her aide. "They should come from the heart." At exactly 7 p.m. GMT, 6 hours before. The aliens' deadline, every television channel, radio station, and streaming service on Earth carried President Lee's broadcast. She stood alone before a simple blue backdrop, wearing not her usual formal attire but a plain black suit. "People of Earth," she began, her voice steady despite the pressure. "Today, we face the greatest threat in our species' history. The visitors from the stars have made their intentions clear. They do not come in peace. They do not wish to learn from us or share knowledge. They see our beautiful planet only as resources to be harvested, our lives as obstacles to be removed." Images from around the world showed people gathered in living rooms, in bars, in town squares, all watching, all holding their breath. Throughout our history, humans have fought one another. We have divided ourselves by borders, by beliefs, by the color of our skin. We have caused each other immeasurable suffering. President Lee paused, looking directly into the camera. "But today we are one people, one species, one world." In orbit, the alien ships repositioned, their massive forms casting shadows over cities below. To those who came to our home uninvited, who threaten our children, who demand our surrender, I deliver humanity's first and only warning. President Lee's voice grew stronger. "We have been warring among ourselves for millennia. Violence is our expertise. Destruction is our heritage. We have split the atom. We have created weapons that can level mountains. We have spent centuries perfecting the art of combat. Across the globe, in secret facilities deep underground and hidden in remote regions, soldiers and technicians prepared the Thermopylae Protocol, systems lighting up that had never before been activated. You may have crossed the stars," President Lee continued, "but you have never faced humans fighting as one. Leave now. Return to whatever world you came from, or discover what happens when humanity stands united." Her words hung in the air as the broadcast ended. In homes worldwide, an eerie silence followed. Had it worked? Would the aliens leave? Inside the command bunker, President Lee removed her microphone and asked quietly, "How much longer until Thermopylae is ready?" 3 hours, Madam President," Colonel Park replied. "Systems worldwide at 67% activation." On the main screen, the alien mothership began to move, not away from Earth but closer. Smaller craft deployed from its sides, descending toward major cities. "They've made their choice," President Lee said, her face reflecting the glow of emergency lights that had just activated throughout the bunker. "Humanity will now make ours." As night fell across half the world, people looked to the stars with a mixture of fear and determination. Tomorrow would either be the first day of alien occupation or the day humanity proved that Earth would not fall easily. The attack began at dawn over the Pacific Ocean. The alien ships descended through Earth's atmosphere in perfect formation, breaking through the clouds like giant metal arrows. Their target, the combined naval fleet of several nations conducting joint exercises near Guam. 30 ships, thousands of sailors, all about to become the first battlefield in humanity's war for survival. From his monitoring station in the underground bunker beneath Mount Fuji, Dr. Hyunwoo Song watched the radar screens with clenched fists. As the lead scientist on the Thermopylae weapons system, he had spent 15 years of his life preparing for a moment he'd hoped would never come. "First wave of alien craft approaching target," reported a young technician, her voice remarkably steady. 3 minutes to contact." Around Dr. Song, the command center hummed with controlled tension. Military personnel from 12 nations worked side by side, old enemies now united by necessity. 3 giant screens dominated the wall, showing real-time satellite footage of the alien descent. Admiral Junho Lee of the South Korean Navy spoke from the communications panel. "Pacific Fleet is in defensive position, all hands prepared for contact." His image flickered on the screen, the bridge of his ship visible behind him. "Requesting permission to engage with conventional weapons." Colonel Do-hyun Park, who had taken operational command of the Thermopylae Protocol, stepped forward. "Negative, Admiral. Hold your fire until the aliens make first contact. We need to see what they're capable of." They didn't wait long. The alien ships stopped their descent about 3 kilometers above the fleet. For a moment they simply hovered, silent and menacing against the morning sky. Then bright blue energy began to gather at the underside of each craft. Energy buildup detected, shouted one of the technicians. "They're charging weapons." Dr. Song grabbed a microphone. "All ships, take evasive action. Dive if you can." On the screens, they watched as beams of intense blue light shot down from the alien vessels. The first struck an aircraft carrier. For a second, nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive ship simply split in half, both pieces sliding into the ocean as if cut by a giant knife. A destroyer nearby suffered the same fate. Then another. "My God," someone whispered in the command center. Colonel Park's face hardened. They had their chance to leave. He turned to Dr. Song. "Activate Thermopylae." Dr. Song unlocked his terminal with a fingerprint and retinal scan, then entered a 16-digit code. A new screen appeared with a simple red button. He pressed. "Thermopylae protocol initiated," announced the computer's voice. "Orbital platforms activating. Ground-based defense grid powering up. Autonomous units deploying." Around the world, things long hidden began to reveal themselves. In Earth orbit, what had appeared to be defunct satellites suddenly came to life, panels sliding away to reveal weapons ports. Beneath the oceans, massive mechanical structures rose, from the seabed where they had been concealed for years. In remote mountain ranges, hidden hangar doors opened to launch swarms of unmanned combat drones. The planet itself seemed to be waking up, putting on armor that had been secretly built piece by piece over decades. Back in the Pacific, the alien ships continued their attack, methodically destroying the naval fleet. But now they had company. "Sir, orbital platforms in position," reported the weapons officer. "Target locks confirmed on all alien vessels." Colonel Park nodded. "Fire." From space came humanity's answer. Beams of concentrated energy, technology reverse-engineered from a crashed UFO decades ago and kept hidden from the public, struck the first alien ship from above. Its shields flared bright orange, holding for a moment before collapsing. The Kai. Ship exploded in a ball of blue flame. The aliens immediately broke formation, clearly caught by surprise. They turned their weapons upward, firing at the orbital platforms, but more were appearing every minute as they dropped their camouflage. "Second wave of defense activated," Dr. Song announced, watching his monitors. "Deploying Pacific subsurface. Units." From beneath the waves rose what looked like mechanical squids, each the size of a subway train. They shot toward the alien ships, latching onto their hulls with metal tentacles. Wherever they attached, the alien shields flickered and died. "What are those things?" asked a young officer beside Dr. Song. "EMP generators," he explained. "Designed to disrupt their energy fields. Once attached, they overload the alien power systems." On the main screen, they watched as one of the largest alien vessels suddenly went dark, its engines failing. It began to drop toward the ocean. "3 more enemy ships disabled," called out the radar operator. "They're falling back." The command center erupted in cheers, but Dr. Song remained focused on his screens. "Deploy third wave hypersonic interceptors." From bases in Japan, South Korea, and Hawaii, sleek, black aircraft launched, moving too fast for the human eye to track. They weren't piloted by humans. No person could survive the G-forces they generated. These were AI-controlled fighters, built for one purpose, to hunt alien ships. In the skies above the Pacific, the battle intensified. The aliens had recovered from their initial shock and were fighting back fiercely. Their remaining ships formed a defensive circle, combining their shields. "They're adapting to our tactics," Colonel Park observed. "Clever," Dr. Song nodded. "But we're just getting started." He typed a new command sequence. "Activating the thunderclap." High in Earth's thermosphere, a satellite unlike the others waited. It had no weapons, just a single device. The result of a breakthrough in quantum physics that most scientists still believed was theoretical. As Dr. Song's command reached it, the satellite oriented itself toward the alien formation and activated. The effect was invisible but devastating. A precisely calibrated gravitational wave, millions of times stronger than should have been possible with Earth technology, hit the alien ships. Their combined shields crumpled like tissue paper. Metal hulls twisted and warped under forces. They weren't designed to withstand. In the bunker, the radar screen suddenly showed fewer contacts. 17 enemy ships destroyed or disabled, reported the operator, disbelief in her voice. "The rest they're retreating." breaking atmosphere and accelerating toward their mothership. The command center erupted in cheers again, but this time Dr. Song joined them, tears in his eyes. Years of secret work, resources diverted from public needs, ethical compromises made in the name of planetary defense. All of it validated in this moment. On the main screen, they watched as the surviving alien ships fled back to space. The battle had lasted less than 1 hour. Colonel Park approached Dr. Song and extended his hand. "Your team did the impossible, Doctor. You built a defense system that worked against technology centuries ahead of our own." Dr. Song shook his hand, but shook his head. "This was just the first wave, Colonel. Their mothership is still out there, and now they know we can fight back." As if confirming his words, a transmission came through on all frequencies. The aliens, speaking for only the second time, "Unexpected resistance encountered. Recalibrating approach, you have merely delayed the inevitable." Dr. Song turned back to his screens, already planning the next phase of defense. "Maybe," he said quietly, "but today, humanity has shown that Earth will not fall without a fight they never expected." Captain Jion Kang stood on the bridge of the EDF Phoenix, her hands clasped behind her back as she studied the holographic display. The massive alien mothership hung in space like a dark star, surrounded by its remaining fleet. After their failed attack on Earth a week ago, the invaders had retreated to lunar orbit, regrouping and repairing their forces. "They think we can." "Only defend," Jion said to her crew. "They expect us to hide behind our planetary shields and wait for their next attack." Lieutenant Minho looked up from his console. "That's exactly what most of the UN Security Council wanted to do." "Politicians," Jion said with a small smile, "always fighting the last battle instead of the next one. The Phoenix was humanity's greatest secret, a warship built in an underground facility beneath the Gobi Desert over the past decade. Its antimatter engine was the first of its kind, powerful enough to reach the moon in hours rather than days. Its weapon systems combined technologies from a dozen nations, some of which had been bitter enemies just months before. "All systems check complete, Captain," reported Chief Engineer Sunwoo from the engine room. "Antimatter containment stable, weapons hot, stealth systems engaged." Jion nodded. "And our companions?" On her display, 6 other ships appeared, smaller than the Phoenix but just as advanced. The Tigris from the Middle Eastern Alliance, the Pachamama from South America, the Great Bear from Russia, the Eagle from North America, the Dragon from China, the Serengeti from the African Union. Together they formed humanity's first true space fleet. "All reporting ready, Captain," confirmed Communications Officer Hana. "The hackers are in position aboard the Tigris. The boarding teams are prepared on the Pachamama and Dragon." Jion took a deep breath. This mission had been approved by only the narrowest margin in the emergency UN session. Half the world's leaders thought it was suicide. Attacking an alien mothership with just 7 ships, no matter how advanced. The other half knew that waiting for another alien assault would only give the invaders time to adapt to Earth's defenses. "Send the go signal," Jion ordered. "All ships, initiate burn on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The Phoenix shuddered, slightly as its antimatter engines ignited, pushing the ship forward at acceleration that would have killed the crew if not for the inertial dampeners. The other ships followed in perfect formation, their trajectories calculated to make them virtually invisible to the alien sensors. In the alien mothership, no alarms sounded. Earth had shown unexpected resistance, yes, but the idea that humans could mount an offensive in space seemed impossible to the invaders. Their attention was focused on repairing their fleet and planning a new attack strategy, one that would overwhelm the planetary defenses they'd encountered. 3 hours later, the Earth fleet dropped out of stealth mode just 1,000 kilometers from the mothership. By then it was too late for the aliens to react effectively. "All ships weapons-free," Jion commanded. "Execute Operation Trojan Horse." The Phoenix fired first, a barrage of missiles that weren't meant to penetrate the mothership's shields but to overwhelm its sensor systems. As the aliens scrambled to respond, the Tigris moved into position, extending a specialized communications array. Aboard the Tigris, a team of 30 hackers, the best from every nation, worked with technology that merged human intuition with AI processing power. Leading them was Ji-woo Park, once South Korea's most notorious cybercriminal before being recruited for this mission. "Their systems are like nothing we've ever seen," Ji-woo told his team as alien code streamed across their screens. "But code is code. Logic is logic. Find the patterns." For weeks they had studied the transmissions intercepted during the first battle. Now they were putting that knowledge to use, sending precisely calibrated signals that mimicked the aliens' own command protocols. "I'm in their navigation systems," called out one hacker, fingers flying across her interface. "Disrupting thruster controls now." "I've found their internal communications," shouted another. "Injecting false orders." Ji-woo himself targeted the defensive systems, uploading virus to their weapons grid, and now, on the mothership, chaos erupted. Shield generators shut down in seemingly random patterns. Weapon systems fired at empty space. Internal doors opened and closed without command. What the aliens couldn't understand, was that humans had been fighting digital wars among themselves for decades. Earth's militaries had developed cyber weapons specifically designed to cause maximum confusion rather than immediate destruction. As the mothership's defenses faltered, Captain Jeon gave her next order. "Boarding teams, you are go," from the E. Pachamama and the Dragon, 20 small shuttles launched, each carrying 6 soldiers in specialized space combat armor. These weren't ordinary troops, but special forces operators who had trained for months in simulated zero-gravity environments. They carried weapons designed specifically for space combat. No bullets or explosives that could breach hulls, but directed energy weapons and magnetically propelled projectiles that would disable rather than destroy. Team leader Dae-ho Kim guided his shuttle toward an airlock that the hackers had identified as vulnerable. "Remember the plan," he told his team over the comm. "We're not here to fight alien ground troops if we can avoid it. Our target is their command center. Disable their leadership." The shuttle attached to the mothership's hull with magnetic clamps. Dae-ho activated the cutting torch, creating an entry point. As atmosphere vented from the breach, his team pushed inside, using magnetic boots to secure themselves in the alien corridor. They encountered their first aliens 3 minutes later, tall, multi-limbed beings clearly not expecting to defend against boarders inside their own ship. The human soldiers moved with unexpected agility in the zero-gravity environment, using the walls and ceiling as launch points for attacks from multiple angles. "They fight like they do everything else," Dae-ho observed as they secured the corridor. "Logical, predictable patterns. They don't adapt quickly enough." Back on the Phoenix, Captain Jeon watched the battle unfold. The Earth fleet was now engaged with the alien escort ships, drawing them away from the mothership. The human vessels were outmatched in raw firepower, but employed tactics that confused. The aliens, feints, sacrificial positions, splitting forces only to reunite them at unexpected moments. "They think mathematically," Jeon had explained during the mission briefing. "We need to fight irrationally, do what makes no logical sense." The Russian ship Great Bear deliberately took heavy damage to lure 3 alien vessels into a trap. The African ship Serengeti shut down all systems to appear destroyed, only to reactivate at the perfect moment to attack from behind. The North. American Eagle performed maneuvers that pushed its structural integrity to the breaking point, achieving angles of attack the aliens couldn't anticipate. These were strategies drawn from human history, from ancient Chinese generals to Napoleon, to desert guerrilla fighters. Tactics born from thousands of years of humans fighting humans, now turned against an enemy that had never needed to think so creatively about combat. 6 hours into the battle, the tide turned decisively. Dae-ho's team reached the alien command center, installing devices that broadcast overwhelming sensory input to the alien leadership. The hackers had taken control of life support systems throughout significant portions of the mothership. And the Earth fleet, despite taking heavy damage, had destroyed or disabled over half the escort ships. On the Phoenix's bridge, Communications Officer Hannah looked up from her console with wide eyes. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the mothership. They want to talk." Jeon straightened her uniform, feeling the weight of humanity on her shoulders. Put it through. Let's hear what they have to say. The main screen filled with the image of an alien being, its features strange, but its posture unmistakably conveying shock. The first counterattack in human history against an alien invasion force had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Not because humans had better technology or greater numbers, but because they had something the aliens hadn't counted on: the unpredictable, irrational creativity that comes from a species that had practiced warfare against itself for its entire existence. The mothership was about to retreat, and humanity had proven itself more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had imagined. The meeting room aboard the Phoenix was sparse, just a round table and chairs hastily converted from a storage area. Earth's representatives sat on one side: General Min-Soo Choi, Dr. Ji-won Kim, Colonel Do-hyun Park, and Captain Jeon Kang. Across from them, 3 aliens perched uncomfortably in human-designed seats. The alien in the center, clearly the leader, was taller than the others. Its skin had a bluish tint that shifted colors slightly when it moved. Though its face was hard for humans to read, the tension in its 6-fingered hands was unmistakable. Between them hovered a translation device, a hybrid of human and alien technology cobbled together in the past 12 hours. "We have agreed to this meeting as a courtesy," the alien commander began, its words converted to a flat, mechanical voice. "Your resistance has been unexpected." General Min-Soo Choi, appointed by the United Nations as humanity's chief negotiator, nodded. At 63, he was the oldest human in the room, his face weathered by decades of military service. "We appreciate your willingness to talk," Min-Soo replied, "though we would have preferred peaceful first contact rather than an invasion." The alien made a gesture that the translation device didn't interpret. "Your planet was categorized as pre-spacefaring, low-level technology, divided global governance, internal conflicts, easy acquisition." Dr. Ji-won Kim, who had first spotted the alien fleet, leaned forward. "You categorized us wrong." The alien commander's skin rippled, perhaps their equivalent of a frown. "Evidently, your unified defense exceeded all projections. Your counterattack was improbable. You were hiding your true capabilities." Captain Jeon touched the fresh bandage on her forehead, a wound from when the Phoenix had taken heavy fire during the battle. "We weren't hiding anything. We simply did what humans always do when threatened: we adapt." For the first time, one of the other aliens spoke, its voice higher and faster. "Your weapons platforms in orbit, your antimatter drive, the quantum communications your hackers used. These technologies should be beyond your development stage." Colonel Do-hyun tapped his fingers on the table. "We've had visitors before, crashes, signals, things we've studied in secret for decades. But most of what you saw wasn't alien technology, it was human ingenuity pushed to its limits by necessity." The main alien commander leaned closer to the translation device. "You were categorized as pre-spacefaring. How did you hide your true strength?" General Min-Soo smiled slightly. "We didn't hide it. Your analysts simply failed to understand humanity's defining trait. We always prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." He pulled up images on a tablet and slid it across the table. The aliens examined pictures of ancient human fortifications, medieval castles, modern bunkers. "Throughout our history," Min-Soo continued, "humans have built defenses while praying. They'd never be needed. We've designed weapons while working for peace. It's a contradiction, but one that defines us." The aliens conferred among themselves in sounds the translator couldn't process. Finally, the commander spoke again. "Our mission parameters have changed. The resource acquisition value of your planet is now outweighed by the military cost of occupation." Colonel Do-hyun translated the bureaucratic speak. "You're saying we're not worth the trouble." The alien's color shifted to a deeper blue. "We have conquered species across 3 galactic arms. You are the first to force our retreat." Outside the meeting room, on both the Phoenix and down on Earth, humans waited anxiously for news. In living rooms and bunkers, in hospitals where the wounded from the Pacific battle were still being treated, in command centers where military leaders held their breath. Everyone wondered if humanity's victory was temporary, or if the aliens would return with greater force. As the meeting concluded, terms were established. The alien fleet would withdraw beyond Neptune's orbit. They would send no further ships into Earth's solar system. In return, humans would allow them to collect their damaged vessels and depart without further conflict. Standing on the observation deck of the Phoenix, General Minsu and Captain Ji-yeon watched as the massive mothership began powering up its engines. "Do you think they'll honor the agreement?" Ji-yeon asked. Minsu sighed. "I think they're practical. They came for an easy conquest and found a hornet's nest instead. There are easier targets in the galaxy. But they'll tell others about..." "Yes," Minsu nodded, "and that might be our best defense." 3 days later, the alien fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving Earth's solar system behind. Their final transmission was broadcast globally. "We will spread word of Earth. No one will target your world again." In the weeks that followed, Earth began the process of rebuilding and preparing. The secret was out now, both that humanity had hidden defense capabilities and that we were not alone in the universe. The United Nations transformed into a true world government, united by the shared experience of almost becoming extinct. In research facilities around the globe, scientists studied the alien technology left behind from damaged ships. Dr. Hyun Woo Song led a team examining their faster-than-light drive, working to understand principles of physics humans had only theorized about. "We've jumped ahead by at least a century," he told President Yoon-ha Lee during a briefing at the new United Earth Defense Headquarters in Seoul. "Their invasion might have been the best thing that ever happened to human technological development." President Lee didn't share his enthusiasm. "At the cost of thousands of lives in the Pacific battle." "I know," Hyun-woo nodded solemnly, "but their sacrifice means we'll be ready next time." 6 months after the retreat, the first human colony ships were launched toward Mars. Not out of scientific curiosity alone, but strategic necessity. Earth had learned an important lesson. A species confined to one planet was vulnerable. Humanity needed to spread among the stars. On the anniversary of the invasion, Colonel Do-hyun Park, now General Park, stood before the newly constructed memorial to the fallen in Tokyo Bay. Where naval ships had once floated, now stood 7 massive pillars, each representing a continent united in defense of Earth. "We won because we surprised them," he told the gathered crowd, his words broadcast to billions worldwide. "We won because thousands of years of fighting each other taught us how to fight together. We won because when pushed to the edge of extinction, humans don't give up. We push back harder." In deep space, beyond Earth's perception, alien vessels carried news of the small blue planet that had defied conquest. Across the galaxy, other spacefaring races took note. Some with concern, others with interest, a few with relief that another defender of life had emerged among the stars. Earth continued building its defenses, now visible and proud rather than hidden. Orbital platforms expanded into a comprehensive shield network. The United Fleet grew from 7 ships to 70. Mars became a forward defense position, rather than just a scientific outpost. But perhaps most importantly, Earth sent out its own message to the stars, broadcasting on all frequencies in every language humans had ever spoken, plus mathematical. Code any advanced species would understand. "We come in peace. We wish to learn. We hope to be friends. But know this, Earth is protected. Threaten humanity at your peril." The message repeated day after day, year after year, as humanity took its first cautious steps into a larger galaxy, carrying both an open hand and a raised shield.